Speaking of the male-female dynamic, suppose in order for a man to be monogamous with you, he has to cheat on himself. Suppose he has to not be what he is in order to be what you want him to be. And just because somebody said that what they want sex to be used as or in is what God wants, you feel guilty because you've not been able to uphold that perverted standard. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Woo, woo, woo. So it seems to me that people have used sex to be considered a bad thing unless it is used in some particular way, unless it's done in some particular way, in some particular atmosphere, at some particular time. Otherwise, they choose to promote it as a bad thing. But God is always right. So no matter what rules we try to make, when those rules are not in line with what God is and what God has designed, the rules fail and God wins. God wins because God is always right. Sex, as it seems to me, is awesome, a wonderful thing. It is, or can be considered, the greatest physical pleasure to mankind, that is, both men and women. Okay, you want to see somebody upset, give them bad sex. Nothing pisses somebody off more than a bad sexual experience, because it actually is the most pleasurable experience. So when it is a bad one, you know what you're missing out on if you've had it good, okay? And so how dare we try to remove somebody from office or take somebody's job away because they had sex with somebody? Mind your damn business. How dare you say that because they are married, they are now a bad example of being a good person? They had sex with somebody outside of their marriage. Mind your damn business. They are married. You're not in the marriage. That is their relationship. So the other person may have the right to leave them, but that don't mean you have the right to remove them, because that's none of your business. Again, that's using sex as a bad thing or making it seem bad. Also, if we didn't create rules that went against God when it comes to sex in the first place, we wouldn't have a lot of these issues of seeing people moral or immoral based on who or if they've had sex with whom or anybody. Okay, so I believe that what God has done naturally lets us know what is okay, naturally, divinely, morally. For instance, the body will let you know when it is ready to reproduce. Before that, it will not reproduce because it is not ready to reproduce. At a point, it is ready for reproduction. And then all of a sudden, certain other parts of the body start to explode, if you will. It is ready for reproduction. But before that time, it won't do it. So you don't have to worry. God has already set it up to let us know what is okay and when it's not okay. Now, it's when man feels that God made a mistake, that it wants to implement rules that are outside of or against what God has designed. And now we have all of these problems. But really, it's not a God problem, it's a man problem, because God has already designed everything to be the way it ought to be. It's when man again wants to go against that because man doesn't like what God has designed. And so man says, okay, we need to put sex in this context. God has already put it in its proper context, but we need to help God out. And the funny thing is, it depends on where you are as to how God has helped. So the rules that are in the United States are not the same rules that's in Pakistan. It's not the same rules that's in Japan. So I guess it depends on where you are as to, what God is okay with. But however, no matter what the rules are, it seems like the body operates the same way everywhere. So God seems to be the same everywhere, no matter the race, no matter the place. But depending on where we are, there is somebody or somebodies who want to represent God in a different way. And so that's why it's different, and what's okay and what's moral and what's godly is different depending on where we are. Problem to me. You know what I mean? And so man's way is not working because it's not God's way. The fact that we decided that sex is only right in marriage doesn't mean that sex is only right in marriage. That's some stuff that we came up with. That is a rule that we came up with. Monogamy is way or a practice, whatever we came up with. The thing is, let's say the D is going to work whether it's married or not. And the P is going to secrete and be ready whether it's married or not. Because it is the body, it is natural, it's what God did. Now we are now trying to put order to it and say it. But the thing is, it works the same way, married or not. What I'm saying is, there's a difference between what God has designed and what God has obviously allowed to be okay, and what we accept of what God has designed and allowed to be okay. In some places it's right, some places it's considered not right. Just like weed is okay in Washington, but it's not okay in Jersey. Is it okay or not? You know what I mean? It's based on the place that we're in. And so when it comes to sex, I will not be bamboozled into believing that anything is wrong with it at all. I believe it is a natural thing. I think that the problem comes when we have decided that it can only be done a certain way and at a certain time and all of that. And then you got people feeling guilty, feeling like they have done something wrong and all this stuff because they've done a natural thing. Okay, when you go outside and you catch a cold, okay, do we say, you just immoral and dirty because you should have stayed inside until the summer season, and you out here going out in the winter getting colds, catching stuff? That's ridiculous, right? Okay, so when somebody catches something from sex, it is still a natural thing that they did, and it's reasonable that they did it, but something went, I guess, unfortunate or negative in the process of something natural, not because they were bad. They were disobedient and all of that kind of nonsense. And I know that this gets in the way of religion because that's what religion wants to do, control what we do and how we do it. It is a personal or organized set of practices, attitudes, and beliefs. That is the definition, or one that I've seen, of religion. And so, the idea of freedom, and freedom in God, freedom according to what God has done, gets in the way of religion. But it seems to me that religion, in a lot of ways, is out of order and out of place and ungodly. The fact that we have to try to shape God into an organized set of attitudes, practices, and beliefs says to me that religion does not trust God and does not trust God as it has set all things. Therefore, we need to create a mindset of God. We need to make a book that says this is, what God thinks and how God is. And if it ain't in the book, then we have to trust somebody to speak on behalf of God. All of this is immature and unnecessary. I think if we based our religions, if you would, our practices, our beliefs on what is natural, what is God, what is organic, what is raw, then we will be happier. People's hearts are broken because of what they believe. People's hearts are broken because of their perception. I have recently started to use a different term when sex is being had outside of a committed relationship. I normally say sex outside of a relationship rather than cheating, because if we delve into cheating, it is the idea that I own you. I own you physically. I own your body. You know what I mean? And so when you go outside of sharing it with me, you are cheating on me. Well, suppose the way God has designed the man is that the man is turned on by variety. Speaking of the male-female dynamic, suppose in order for a man to be monogamous with you, he has to cheat on himself. Suppose he has to not be what he is in order to be what you want him to be. And just because somebody said that what they want sex to be used as or in is what God wants, you feel guilty because you've not been able to uphold that perverted standard.